And welcome back to the first week of Hearthstone action on the NECC. Next up, we've got what promises to be an absolute slugfest. Bay State's own Bognasty will be going toe-to-toe with the pride of Northern Alabama, KillerJV. 1,200 miles separates these competitors, but tonight they're going to get to know each other a little bit better here. I am joined by none other than Mick, who's here for the first round. Hey, let the people at home know what they missed if they're joining us late here.
You guys missed a clean sweep by our boys over there. It just felt like, it was very one-sided. NECC kind of took it home there against Fluffy Boy with a 3-0. Pretty quick one, too, at that, sadly. But overall, hopefully with these deck lists we're looking at right now, things can slow down a little bit more so we can have a little bit more to talk about this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Players are conducting their bans right now there, Mick. What are you expecting to see across the board? That Demon Hunter jumping out to me, kind of sitting atop the tier list. Not something I ever want to play against. OTK feels bad in general. What are your thoughts on what the players are going to take out of play here?
I'm thinking we're going to see a lot more tempo than we actually bargained for. We see a lot of aggro. We see a lot of, Highlander recently, but with how the meta's going, everything feels like it's so quick, so up front, worrying about mulligans and just praying to God you get that quick curve in those first 3 turns.
Absolutely. We do see a lot of low-to-the-ground decks here, as I do hear bans are coming through from the producer. So Demon Hunter and Hunter taken off the table. Demon Hunter, something I expected to go. What are the threats of that Secret Hunter list? Why do you feel that was taken off the board with that Warrior Paladin Mage didn't want to see?
With Secret Hunter, it's just such a pain to play. I mean, we saw earlier Fluffy actually get beat for, playing it. But if you don't have the right deck list, looking at, depending on how many resources you have to expend at one time, a Secret Hunter can just constantly keep threats on the board with all the new secrets being introduced, with minion replications and, just kind of flooding the board with those secrets. You don't want to sit there and mess with that. If you don't only have so many minions to play, and if you only have so many cards to play, it just takes too many cards out of your hand to sit there and deal with the threats on board. And by that point, Demon Hunter's hero power could just ping you down to death.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the 6 decks that we do have left, I'm looking over at Bognasty's side. You were talking about we had maybe a bit more tempo than we had bargained for. These 3 decks are pretty low to the ground. This Paladin deck on both sides kind of feels like the odd one out to me, but that Rogue, that Warlock, going to stay pretty low to the ground, as will the Enraged Warrior for the most part on the other side. Both players are bringing this Paladin deck to the table, featuring that large top end. We were talking about it beforehand, this Ramp Paladin. You said you haven't seen much of it yet. How are you expecting it to perform given the other decks we see?
With Ramp Paladin, I've sit there and I've kind of done a little bit of research. It seems to have a lot more resource generation than other kinds of low to the ground decks. You do have those more expensive spells. You do have those minions and things to sit there and kind of rejuvenate what you've already summoned over the course of the game if it gets around to a late game situation. But besides that, it's just praying that, in those bottom ends, you get the right pulls. You sit there and you're allowed to chain your hand and keep your hand as full as possible, because otherwise you're just going to get blown out by somebody who sits there and just has a better position on the board. And at that point, it doesn't matter how many cards you have in your hand. By the time you sit there and expend all those resources, you're just going to be out of gas.
Yeah, absolutely. That will be the only mirror match that we potentially get the chance to see over the course. And honestly, in the mirror, it's very odd, right? Because you want to be the second player. You don't want to resolve a Nozdormu, I guess, right? You set each player's mana crystals to 10. You want to be the first player to take advantage of that. So I'm excited to see if that comes to fruition. I would love to get to see the mirror match just to see how those players do take it on. My eyes then are drawn to this secret mage. What do we know about this list? You were talking about some of the new secrets. Newer Netherwind Portal just feels terrible to play against. 4-cost minion is just huge.
Yeah, for 3 mana, it's actually really annoying to face. You sit there, especially with mages' secrets and how strong they can be in terms of the spells and the things you can cast. You're always worried about a counter spell. You're always just trying to do something to get around those strong secrets. And, you know, say if you think it's another way, if you think it's a counter spell by some chance, you sit there, end up drawing or, you know, using your coin to burn it out. You just gave them for 1 mana, you just gave them a free 4. So, you know, it just feels really bad to sit there and with the trade offs and the theoretical kind of situations you're put in with those. You know, Secret Mage being very aggressive nonetheless, you know, surprisingly being a very aggressive, very draw based kind of thing with that Sage Seer, the Dark Moon, with every single friendly secret you cast, it draws a card, so it encourages you to burn through your hand and get through as quick as possible. But overall, you know, it's just all these new secrets that are being introduced are just encouraging this aggressive meta that we're going to see, you know, half and half a little bit of tonight.
Absolutely, we are underway here in game number 1. If you're just joining us, piloting this Warlock will be Bognasty, hailing from Bay State, facing down on the other side, KillerJV representing Northern Alabama. It is sure to be a good one, as we're going to get it cooking here with a hero power on turn 1. Mick, what are we looking at here in the early going between this Zoolock and Ramp Paladin?
We're looking at Paladin at this point, trying to generate, you know, refresh his hand. As we see, he's going to drop a red scale, and that's a 2/3 facing a 1/1. So he's going to have the upper hand in terms of those trades. And then once it dies, he's going to get a dragon in hand, which is going to be a lot better from him from, say, Warlock, who has to sit there and expend his mana for either 1 or 2 more minions, which could also theoretically possibly still not be enough to trade to that 2/3 as of right now. So Paladin's just trying to ramp up as quick as possible, get those expensive cards, because before you know it, with the resources in his hand, he's going to be at that point where he's got to be spending those expensive minions at that point.
Absolutely, the face is the place there early on. The 1/1 going to connect. Yeah, I've got my eyes on those double flesh giants. For those uninitiated, cost 1 less for each time that your hero's health changes during your turn. Get down, added to hand there. Solid pull. Feels good, especially going up against decks that are trying to win on the ground here, are trying to put bodies to the board. We're going to see Hearthstone play there into a Voidwalker. My eyes are also drawn. I mean, this hand for the Warlock just feels so good. Flesh Giant, but also the hand of Gul'dan there. If there is a possible way to discard, that's just going to absolutely go off the rails in a hurry.
Yeah. And, you know, looking from KillerJV's side, you know, he's running on a lot of cheap cards right here, giving him a lot of options to counter these early minions on the board, giving him a lot of options to sit here and just kind of play things out, get these trades in, and still establish himself aboard, because by the time it gets around to those Flesh Giants, he's going to need things to sit there and counteract those big, chunky presences that are on the board.
Yeah, we do see another card drawn here. Next turn is taken. Thinking about this Wand Maker, right? Getting that get down, is that the card you would prefer most? Snagging off a Wand Maker, 1-cost spell, as we do see a Nightshade Matron played, does discard that Gul'dan's hand, will draw 3 into another Gul'dan's hand. Ooh, this engine is getting scary.
Which we do see, you know, JV dropping the Storm Moon, which is really good for him because, you know, from his point of view, he does have a couple of expensive cards in hand. He wants to go ahead and get those corrupt effects off. He wants to get these expensive minions out because, you know, both incantations of this decks that each player has, they have an Azoth, God of the Deep, inside of these decks, and they want to sit there and get as many of those big minions on the board as possible. So when it gets around to playing that, he has plenty of things that will flood the board once he plays that 10 mana cost. You know, with that 5/7, you know, with the Scrapyard Colossus or things of the likes of that, that's another 7/7, which has a taunt and a death rattle. You know, he's just trying to sit here and get it to where he has a big playing turn, just like these Flesh Giants, which is just a little bit more threatening.
Yeah, a bit more threatening indeed. Massive board coming through, and that Cameron that Ebonlock, really just massive momentum swing. You see the demons get discounted, gonna shovel some soul fragments in. It's not looking great, right? This is what the Paladin want to do. You're trying to get those 10 mana crystals early so you can drop your big threats, but unfortunately, just these demons got going a little bit faster. Like I said, fueled by that Ebonlock, reducing the cost. We're going to see if there will be a bit of a fight back, dropping some taunt threats here, getting the strongman on the table. What does the Paladin have to do in this matchup here, Mick, to crawl back in it?
Well, the Paladin really just needs expensive cards because right now the Warlock is forced into a situation where he has to trade. I can see from KillerJV he has a Carnival Clown in hand, meaning, it fills the board with nothing but taunt 4/4s. So at this point, Warlock has already used both his Flesh Giants, and he's already used one of his Nightshade Matrons. So, he doesn't have that many big attack minions at this point, and he's going to have to find a way to sit there and trade, and still have the gas to sit there and counter a N'Zoth or say another big threat that comes on the board, which, from the likes of it and, seeing what we got right here, I think JV might actually have a chance as much as, Warlock looks favored right now.
Yeah, indeed, trying to buff these minions and trade off, but you're exactly right. That Carnival Clown will be coming down any moment, flooding the board, and no real way seemingly to deal with it on the offset. So we're going to see what can be done there. I can't quite read that demon that's in hand, that 7 cost, and make if you can help me out. The resolution waning a little bit on my end.
Oh, okay. I'm going to assume what you're talking about is going to be that it's going to be Cantharid's Prime. I'm sure is what it is. Yeah, and it sits there and it summons or just a bunch of random demons for Warlock to sit there and play with. They can be of any cost. There's no limitations to it whatsoever. So it's just another one of those RNG elements that he's praying comes into his favor when it comes around to actually throwing it on the board. Yeah, he does have a second Kel'Thuzad right there on the board right now, but overall, he's just hoping most likely that the Prime that he throws down is going to be enough to counter a Carnival Clown and possibly another refresh of a board flood.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the Cantharid Prime there, just trying to get the resource generation through the RNG, hoping to find the demons that can answer this board, but absolutely massive. All the 4/4s have come out from that Carnival Clown, taking this turn to the rope, really thinking it through, trying to find the best line of play, and we're down to 3 clowns at the end of the turn. Paladin just trying to hold on, outgas at this point, but as you're talking about, Cantharid Prime summoning 3 friendly demons that died this game. Could hit big or could miss big. You don't want just 3 Flame Imps.
Yeah, and, it also comes down to how many times it died. So, he'd be a lot more, likely to get a Void Walker than he would, say, a Minari. And, with how many he's played in those early games, that can mess you up if you sit there and tend to throw it down early enough, those Primes, because that can end up, messing you up if you haven't got your big ones on the board yet. So I think that's exactly what Bognasty's looking at right now, trying to figure out, when is the best time to play this so I can increase my likelihoods of getting something that I want.
What are even the demons that really get you close out of the situation? Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of Nightshade Matron, right? The 5/5 rush, and I guess you want that with your Minari, so you can give the +3 attack and lifesteal on that turn, but ultimately, it feels like the momentum here is sliding slowly but surely over to the Paladin, developing a weapon here, a lot of resources on the board. It's not looking great here as the swinging has commenced. This turn, run into the rope, hero power to end it off for the most part. Going to drop another minion, but man, it does not look great for the Paladin situation. There's Soul Fragment, going to be able to stabilize just a little bit, but a whole lot more help than that.
Yeah, and as you said with the rush right there, the rush 5/5, there's only so many of those you can get. The likelihood of getting duplicates of those is extremely low, and he's going to need a lot more. And as you said with the Minari, one thing to keep in mind is that is a battle cry. So if he sits there and gets it from the Prime, it's not going to sit there and trigger that effect. Sadly, it's only going to sit there if he plays it from hand. And once you play down the Prime, which we're going to see now, it isn't giving him anything he wants. Really just buying time.
Yeah, not quite what they were looking for there. You called me out in the battle cry. I've been playing a little bit too much Magic Gathering Arena.
It's okay, man. We all got it.
They're ETBs. Absolutely, the board built up a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. There is the concession. Game number 1 will go over to this Ramp Paladin list, taking out of the equation. If you're not acquainted with the Conquest format, you have to win with each of the decks you bring in this best 3 out of 5. So now that Paladin has been essentially used up, the dub has been secured, bag secured, Rogue and Warlock left on the table for KillerJV in the remainder of this one, Mick. Which one do you think they're going to select? More importantly, in my mind, Bognasty trying to run it back after holding the L. Mage Warrior Paladin.
Yeah, I'm thinking personally looking at the, how this Warlock played, he's going to want to go ahead and get something on the board to where he can take care of that again later. And the one option I have right there for that is probably going to be Warrior. So to hold it out a little bit longer, he might go ahead and try and get the Secret Mage out of the way, because you got whenever you're playing with a deck that's so aggro based, you need to sit there and get lucky with your first draw. So say if you don't get it the first time around, you're praying you get that a second time around. So you're really just trying to increase the likelihoods of getting those first beginning good draws and making sure that you can lock it down. And once he gets that, Warrior's a much easier play style with, every turn. If you just hero power, you eventually become invincible is what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see the Secret Mage coming out, and as an old head of the game, gotta pay a lot of respect to Secret Mage. A lot of oldies but goodies. Secret Keeper, you got the Kieran Tour Mage. Classics like Mirror Entity are never going out of style. Excited to see what this brings to the table. Which secrets are we looking for first? What are we trying to prioritize in this matchup against a deck that, once again, is trying to put bodies on the board?
Well, against a matchup that trying to flood the board as quick as possible, Flame Ward is huge for that. As soon as that mage gets attacked, it's going to deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. So it's almost like a stronger explosive trap in a sense. So he's really trying to pull those right off the bat, but a Netherwind Portal will never hurt him by any means. Getting a 4 mana on the board to sit there and trade out, especially with all these cheap minions, it'll make easy trades over the long course of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the Netherwind Portal before, as a guy who likes to play Historic, would you get that Piloted Shredder off the Netherwind Portal? Oh, baby, a sticky threat against a deck that's trying to play on the board. Nothing better than that. Taking their time right here is KillerJV going to pop the coin out right there. 3 mana play in mind. Inconspicuous Riddler comes out and will scoop up a secret from the deck. Would like to see what that one is. I don't have the hover ability. What do we got, Mick?
Oh, we got a Netherwind Portal, actually. So as soon as he sits there in Warlock, he doesn't have too many early spells, sadly, so he's not going to be able to get the trigger off until later on in the game. But, nonetheless, at that point, he's just going to be looking for trades because, once he gets a flesh drying out, a 4 cost will be a very crucial part in trying to trade that out and making sure to get damage off onto it to clear it out. Because the, 8 damage is just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, outside of Wicked Whispers, I can't think of a spell that you're really trying to hard cast, right? The Hand of Gul'dan, you're obviously never trying to actually play, will just get discarded. So this may actually stay on the board for quite some time. And if it really comes to it, I mean, Bognasty's going to know that that is a Nether Portal at some point or another.
Yeah, and with that, it really comes down to making sure the Wicked Whisper pops off in the right way. You want to sit there and make sure that you get a big enough board, which, I mean, it looked like a pretty solid threat right here, but I don't think he wants to trigger that Netherwind Portal, so he's just going to settle with a lot of small pinging of damage over the course of time and just trying to wing it out as long as he can. But, we just got another secret. Sadly, not Flame War, which is what JV would be looking for. It's a rigged fair game. Meaning that if he doesn't take any damage during his opponent's turn, meaning if he doesn't attack the hero at all, if Bognasty doesn't touch him, then that means he gets an extra 3 cards. And I feel like Bognasty's going to be pretty aware of that. But issue is, if he knows that it's not, if he's afraid of the fact it's a Flame Ward, he's not going to touch that man, therefore giving him exactly what he wants.
I don't think he's afraid, though. It's going to develop right into the secret. I don't see a reason to play that Flame Imp if you are fearing the ward here. Maybe overplaying his hand a little bit, but not going to be punished, as we do know what the secret is. I don't think that rigged fair game is going off probably for the remainder of the game. That's going to be one tough task to get it off. We do see a fireball drawn there, a little bit of direct damage. Probably going to have to use his removal at some point here. Mick not looking the best for this Secret Mage out of the gate.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was trying to mention earlier, going back on, like, hoping for those early draws, getting the right pulls. Sadly, he got the Netherwind Portal right off the bat. Say if he got that rigged fair game earlier in the game when he had to sit there and make those trades rather than, going directly face as he's been doing right here, he could have actually possibly gotten that secret off. But, when it comes down to it, looking at the resource he has in hand, he just doesn't have enough to sit there and counter the gas that Bognasty's throwing on the board with the Zoo Warlock. And that's exactly probably why he played this second, to make sure that he could increase his likelihood of winning with this. But when it comes down to it, he's also possibly hoping if he can go ahead and knock out this aggressive kind of deck that maybe when it comes around to the next one, he does have a little more time to buy with one of Bognasty's other decks to buy on that time to go ahead and get everything out that he needs to and trigger those secrets.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that would have saved here for KillerJV would have been an absolutely killer Jandis Barov summering some 5/5 or some 5-cost taunts, excuse me, but they will trade, evening up the series at 1 win apiece. That Warlock will be taken out, leaving the Rogue and Paladin left, if I am not mistaken, for Bognasty. Still looking at that Warrior Mage on the other end for KillerJV. I know personally I got a lot of pride in my heart. If I lose with that mage, I'm running it right back. What's your general philosophy on this, Miv?
You know, he's probably just wishing he can mulligan again. I mean, that's really all you can do. You know, when you're only stuck with 3 cards, you know, he had the upper hand on that second time, being able to you know, sit there and have the extra card and get that extra chance possibly. But in the second time around, he's really praying he has enough gas to sit there and counter what, you know, Ramp Paladin is going to throw down, because he just ran this deck and won the first match with it. So he knows it's a threat to be reckoned with, and he knows how to counteract it, because, you know, when it comes to, you know, these meta decks, there's not too many differences you can make to it without, you know, threatening the win condition of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to send that whole hand back, and there is the Nosdormu in the opener. So this is a dangerous hand, especially with the coin. We're probably going to see that Nosdormu come out on 3. At least, it doesn't seem like there's any reason not to. You're going to give that mage a lot of options, but I don't see any way you don't. Seer of Darkmoon in the mage's hand, which is the highest threat minion in the deck. Thinking about that one right here. Ancient Mysteries is played. They will scoop up a secret from the deck, toss out the Rigged Fair Game, and this is a phenomenal place to play that Rigged Fair Game. Most likely not going to take any damage here, especially early on against a deck of this nature, and we're going to get the Rod. Gonna just kill that right here, pop out the coins. So we're gonna have to wait to turn on that Nosdormu. Rigged Fair Game should trigger right here, but all in all, I'm liking the start here for the Secret Mage. It seemed kind of doomed with that Nosdormu, and it felt like it was gonna hurt a lot, but finding their feet here early on, generating a lot of card advantage.
Yeah, and you know, looking from JV's point of view, he has plenty to work with here. When you really think about Nosdormu and, you know, getting that 10 mana, the only thing, you know, Mage is all about countering spells and, you know, manipulating the board with them. And with so many counter spells at his disposal, he can sit there. The only thing this Paladin deck has, he could counter it with a Lightforged Blessing, which is a twin spell. But, you know, even if it's a twin spell, that counter spell is going to diminish the effect completely, not allowing it to go back on the board. So the only other thing he has is a Tip the Scales, which is summoning 7 Murlocs from your deck for 8 mana. And if that's a big card that gets countered, then that's technically a whole turn that's gone to waste, and a card that he can't utilize going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. At its best, Counterspell just reads take an extra turn, which would be absolutely massive in a matchup like this one. Going to generate another random Murloc there, and one that is playable. Going to get the Sun Guild there, dormant for 2 turns on play. Pretty solid, actually. Very mana efficient turn. Very fortunate to grab that 1-drop. You're not looking for anything massive because you've got your threats in hand, right? You've got the Nosdormu. This Paladin deck is just getting ready to go. We are revving the edge of that lawnmower, baby. That grass better watch out. The Secret Mage has to start doing something. A mirror entity could be big, but you have to save it for the turn after the Nosdormu if they can dig deep enough to find it.
Yep. And, you know, there's also another thing. You have to sit there and worry about that N'Zoth later as well, because, I mean, you can only clear so much. And, you know, JV does have Sage, Seer the Darkmoon, but if he doesn't go ahead and, you know, he's going to wait for that Nosdormu to go down to be able to pop that. But at this point, he only has 2 secrets that are triggered, so he can't sit there and wait this out. Like, he needs more resources in hand than just a bunch of secrets, because, you know, it's almost like a cycle that's just messing him up in hand right now, to where he needs something that draws for each secret trigger, but he's got secrets on board that are already played but haven't been triggered yet to sit there and cast again.
Yeah, without a doubt, not generating the card advantage they would like. And in this matchup especially, as you said, there's only so many boards you can clear. There's only so much you can do. You're not going to be able to go late against this Paladin deck, and it really didn't feel like KillerJV got the ammunition early on they were looking for. Outside of that fantastic secret on one, drawing some cards there. The rigged fair game was escaping me for a second. I'm missing the Kirin Tor mages, you know, smacking for 4 early and often, and that kind of tempo is what they're missing out on. Considering playing Norse Dorm here, I don't see a reason not to. Your hand is absolutely stacked. Ops for the war leader, so gonna slow roll this just a little bit, taking the conservative approach. Mick, how do you feel about that line?
I feel like it's a very solid move for Bog right now. You know, knowing that Mage is only going to have so many spells, so many things to do, and not enough direct. He's going to save it for those large threats. He's going to try his best to sit there and just keep a presence on the board in terms of minions and just keep on trying to ping down damage slowly, because he's already hit JB's face a couple times. He knows that his minions aren't going to die to a flame ward. He knows he's okay and he's safe in that sense. So he's going to just take advantage of the moment while he can. And, you know, JB's going to sit there and think that a rigged fair game is going to counteract it. Maybe trying to scare him into a flame ward or something, but with all your Murlocs not being too expensive and your 2/3 drawing you a dragon, it's just not enough to sit there and scare the man and like put anything on the board that's going to matter.
Yeah, that Skyfin coming through as well. The threats are piling up right now. You may have to, yeah, that's what I was about to say. Something you feel like maybe you're going to hold on to. That Flame Ward is going to get its most value right here, right now. And to boot, you may get a rigged fair game. I believe, is it trigger on attack or damage?
It's after damage.
After damage, so after attack 0. So will not trigger the fair game here. The board will get wiped, however, opening up. We've still got this Nostormu in hand, and from the looks of it, Bognasty is just very confident taking this game very, very slowly. Mirror Entity, one of the tricks up the Secret Mage's sleeves, not going to do anything there. And here comes Norsdomu, the Timeless, pretty much the namesake of the ramp deck, getting both players up to 10 mana crystals right away. And here's where the fun begins for the Paladin.
You know, and I think this right here with a big throw on the board, a big number, this is where JV's going to throw down that Sage Seer, the Dark Moon. He's going to need to sit there. He's going to draw cards. He's going to try and refresh his hand as best he can, but also get a 5/5 on the board, which is going to be huge for sitting there trying to, you know, counteract that 8/8 big threat that he's got down, especially being at such a health deficit.
Absolutely. And how do you think about trading here, right? You draw that fireball, and in my mind, there's this very distinct battle, right? Like, I want to clear the board, but at the same time, how much direct damage is this deck really packing in the long run, right? You've got those 2 fireballs, but you know you're never going to win on the board. We talked about Kirin Tor mages and how effective they are early on. I mean, a 4/3 for 3 plus value, fantastic. But at this point in the game, just going to get outclassed by every single minion that comes out of this Paladin deck. Trying to flood the board a little bit here. There's an Azoth that is drawn. It is looking grim right now for KillerJV.
Yeah, and you know, there's only so much he can do. You know, he did sit there and get a counter spell off, getting rid of that Repentance, but the Wand Makers actually would sat there and, you know, kind of baited that out. So there goes to tip the scales, you know, being huge for JV here, you know, and something that he's really going to have to counter. Sadly, not having another Flame Ward in hand to sit there and kind of, you know, retaliate it. Hopefully being able to draw something with the Ancient Mysteries. But overall, you know, Bog just having so much more gas for this lawnmower, as you mentioned. You know, there's just so much more to play with in this deck. There's so many more resources for him to utilize. And this Ramp Paladin, this is exactly why it has such a high win rate. There's so many different win conditions. You can play it as token, as he did in the early game. You can play it almost as spell or as a peer or as a taunt, as we saw JV kind of buying out a lot of time against that Zoo Warlock. There's just so many different conditions to Paladin right here. And, you know, Blizzard showed that Paladin as overall is a big favorite in the offices right now with how solid he's been for these past couple expansions.
Yeah, absolutely. This Paladin deck looking strong both times we have seen it. The one thing I would like to say about Bog, you said there's a lot of ways to play the deck, and Bog has just been so utterly patient. Just every move deliberate, everything has a purpose. We're not just going face. That Kirin Tor Mage will be dropped right here, popping out a counterspell to boot. Every move was just so deliberate, and you really have to appreciate Bog. After taking that loss in game number 1, 6 damage being dealt to face, 2 fireballs in hand, so we are somewhat close to a potential come from behind win here for KillerJV. They've got to find some damage, and they have to find some form of board control.
Yeah, and you know, JB's looking like he's kind of locked out here. He's going for a face approach, trying to get whatever damage he can left with these fireballs in hands and things as such. But I don't know if it's going to be enough at this point. I think he's going to sit there and refresh and wait for the secret rogue to come out. And, you know, the stealth rogue, secret/stealth, sorry. But, like, there's so many things that go into rogue nowadays. But, you know, with so many things having stealth, having things like flame ward and things that just kind of AoE affect spells that trigger off the secret and work in synergy with your other cards, it's going to be so much nicer in another matchup like this. Because, you know, against Rant Paladin, it feels like the only thing they can counter is another Rant Paladin or a control deck of some sort, which can just diminish a whole player's board.
Yeah, not looking good. You can control the board a little bit here, but I'm not seeing a super concise line. I didn't peep that Jairus Barov, so that coming in could be big. We don't find any taunt off the back end, though, and that is not going to be enough. There's the concession coming through. KillerJV will fall once again with the Secret Mage, leaving just the Rogue to go for Bognasty and their lawnmower that's just been absolutely putting out the punishment here following that disappointing game number 1.
You know, and I think oddly enough, as time goes on, it feels like JV's only going to get stronger with these matchups. You know, obviously there's an aspect of RNG in the game, but just looking at how these matchups work, Stealth Rogue, the two things that he has to go up against for JV is a Secret Mage, which has a lot of just kind of targeting spells and like a lot of AoE clears with those Flame Wards and those Netherwind portals. But then, say if he does one with Secret Mage, right after that, the Stealth Rogue has to go up against a Warrior, which, you know, especially a Pirate Warrior, and with the new Sword Eater card and, you know, Reaper Scythe and things of the likes, there's so many different things and so many different ways to play with that kind of deck that it becomes an issue, especially with the Risky Skipper. That's a huge minion nowadays, and that can just clear a whole weak board of stealth minions. And at this point, it feels like JV, he actually gets a breather because he knows he's already locked out Bognasty's two strongest decks. And at this point, Stealth Rogue is just not going to be as strong as the rest. But we're going to have to wait and see for those mulligans to come in to see exactly who is favored all in all.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, Bognasty down to the last one, and there are some glaring holes in here. The card that really draws to me, especially in the Secret Mage, that we haven't seen in either matchup, as you may hear my fire alarm go off the background, a little smoke detector. The boys in the kitchen having quite the night, I suppose. This Arcane Flak Mage, right? The ability to have a 3/2 threat on board that can trade out, that also is just AoE, it's clearing, right, the whole time out.
Yeah.
That's the card I would have my eyes on if we saw the Mage run back, but here is the Warrior going mano-a-mano against this Rogue. What are the cards we're trying to look out for in this Warrior deck? You did talk about the Risky Skipper, absolutely fantastic. Kind of fills a similar role as the Flak Mage, right? Is a threat, right? Is a 1/3 solid body to trade with, while being able to dish out that AoE damage.
Yeah, and, you know, a big thing, like I said, is Reaper Scythe and Sword Eater. You know, Rogue is going to have to attack at some point with these stealth minions, and as long as JV keeps them on the board, he's going to be able to Reaper Scythe them and sit there and make sure they just get cleared out immediately, especially with that cleave effect that the weapon has with the spell burst. And also having two Sword Eaters, which is a really good card, sitting at a 4-mana 2/5 with taunt, and you equip a 3/2 sword. Like, there's just so much value in a card like that, especially with a lot of resources to be expended by Bognasty in this Stealth Rogue matchup, because, you know, there's only so many minions you can play at a time, and with that Summoning Sickness, that could kill him all in all if he doesn't get around to actually finding a way to counter it.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see the Spy Mistress developed on the board. 2 more stealth minions, and then has the opportunity to go extremely aggressive here with the coin and really just kind of spew everything out there. Not sure we're eyeing up this War Gonna We're just going to opt here, it looks like, for dropping both 1/1s. Stealth threats established. There is a lot of damage that's going to start coming in. But as we have talked about, between the hero power and everything else, there are a whole lot of tools here. There's Ankar coming out. Pirates will be drawn. A lot of card advantage generated, but is going to take 3 on the crackback from that minion, putting down to 26. 5 damage remaining on the board here, and a lot of damage being drawn as well. There's some more card advantage. This Rogue may have a shot. Bognasty trying to put away KillerJV here in game number 4.
Yeah, you know, and we do see JV sitting there pulling this Warmaul Challenger, which is going to be really nice for trading out these small damage minions. But right now, you know, the best thing he could have asked for right there would have been a risky skipper. If he could have played that, then played a bomb wrangler, that would have sat there, triggered, killed 2 of his minions on board, and then also some of the 1/1 Boombot at the same time, really giving him a beneficial spot to be sitting in.
Yeah, absolutely. Risky skip your MIA right now. KillerJV going into the tank for this one. Pondering some options right now. Still has 1 more charge left on that Ankar. Will be able to draw some cards, I believe. Is that Lord Barov thing about being played there? Not super effective, it feels like, in this match. At least the first half on the battle cry does literally nothing.
Yeah, it only sits there and changes one of the minions' health, which isn't all that beneficial to him at this point. I mean, it does sit there and help him out with that clear, you know, dealing the 1 damage to everything, but he's going to have to use way too many resources to actually get that popped off. So I think he's just going to keep on looking for things, and there we go, looking at that Solitaire, just finding a way to, you know, draw out the damage and stall as long as he can to sit there and get these board clears going.
Yeah, KillerJV finding the absolute correct play there, developing a taunter on the board. I mean, has the ability to trade out here. There's the Delinquent coming through, going to add the 3/1 Ghost to hand on Death Rattle, dropping the coin. And yeah, I mean, I assume we're just going to see a lot of damage pushed through to the face here. Some decisions being made. Corrupt will be adding that to the weapon as well, making a lot more damage coming through, taking some to the face. But man, Bognasty absolutely doing it right now. Develop the board early, hit the face often. KillerJV left to scramble, trying to find some way to extend this first week, but it's not looking good, Mick.
Yeah, you know, he hasn't gotten any of the draws he wanted. He's gotten a lot of duplicates, doesn't have much diversity to his hand, and that's really what's killing him right now. He's probably going to sit there and try and get rid of that fight through, which is the biggest priority right now. But issue is, Rogue has so much more damage around the board, even in his own hand with his weapon, causing a lot of kind of disturbance, because that's the one thing that Warrior can't mess with. He can, you know, play with the minions on board all day with these brawls, with these, you know, AoE clears, things like that. But he just doesn't have anything to really mess with the other opposing hero besides that hero power he's got.
Yeah, what's the current attack of the weapon? Is it already at a 4? Deadly Poison making it 6, 7, 8, 9? I mean, we've got... It's 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's lethal, yeah? If I'm correct, there is Bognasty going to play that. South Sea Deckhand to boot, but that's just gravy along with the Sinister Strike. Oh my goodness, Bognasty. Woo! You know what, Nick? They dropped the first game. We compared Bognasty's game to a lawnmower. It just takes a while to get it going. It's Bognasty coming through. There it is. Finally winning with the Rogue. Rattled off 3 straight. Some very patient gameplay, Mick.
Yeah.
What are your takeaways from that second match we've seen here in week number 1?
Once again, it's just looking like a lot of unlucky draws for guys. You know, sadly, there's just so much, you know, there's so much RNG involved. We've seen a lot of duplicates today on JV's behalf. You know, he doesn't get the hand diversity he wanted. You know, with that Secret Mage matchup having to go twice, he just got the same spells twice in a row or just didn't pull the ones he wanted. You know, just a lot of factors that come in that are out of his control personally. It's not missed damage on here, you know, like maybe a misplay in order there. It's just the fact that, you know, you sit there, you have random effects, and it's a roll of the dice. And maybe he played a little too much D&D this week and, you know, used all of his luck there. But, I mean, you know, we got to sit there and allocate our luck as best we can because, you know, it Bognasty with those just consistent things and, you know, having all those minions to place down that don't need that much synergy, he didn't have to worry about that. No matter what the turn was looking like, he could play something.
Absolutely, folks. You heard it here first. Irresponsible Dungeons and Dragons playing. The result of JV's untimely loss here. We're so thankful for everyone sticking around in chat. The NECC is brought to you by Meta. Meta Pro Gaming is a full-service esports management, development, and consulting company that provides coaching and management. You can visit at metaprogaming.gg to learn more. HyperX, the mission has been developed gaming products for all types of gamers, no matter who you are or how you play. We're all gamers. HyperX, the gear choice of celebrity ambassadors, pro gamers, tech enthusiasts. I don't think I fall into any of those categories, but they are some phenomenal headphones. Great for jamming out at 3 in the morning. Also brought to you by Helix Esports, which is a world-class gaming and virtual reality experiences at state-of-the-art esports centers throughout the United States. They deliver professional esports experience to absolutely everyone. Whether gamers choose to play, practice, and socialize with friends or compete at the highest level, Helix Esports is the premier destination for them. You can follow them at Helix Esports at Helix Esports USA. Caught me off guard there. And our last and final partner, you know this ad read if you were around last season, ESTV, the first ever dedicated channel for esports and gaming personalities, the first channel devoted 24/7 esports coverage, and can be found on a number of OTT platforms including Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung TV Plus, Sling TV, and Vizio Free Watch. Mick, before we send the people to the break, before our next game, do you have any closing thoughts for Twitch chat?
You know, you guys just allocate your luck right. You know, you never know when it's going to come back to bite you.
Absolutely. Hey, don't play D&D if you know you got a Hearthstone match at the end of the week. When you come back from the break, you will be seeing a battle of the slugs. UC Santa Barbara Cruz going up against UC Santa Barbara Cruz as Paper Ninja will be taking on King Milo in what promises to be an absolute banger. We'll see you on the other side.